Welcome back to Adventures with the Hat Commander. This is episode 6 of Vampire the Masquerade Coteries of New York. I think we're just following up on all these other people that we met on their quests and how we can help them out. I think I'm going to stick to my coterie first. Skip these two yokels over here. I don't care about Jess if that's an option to skip. But if I got to get there at some point, I guess. But I still don't get it. She's your ex-girlfriend, and the masquerade requires you not to contact your own people. It sounds like an easy way just to rip that bandit off and be done with it. All right, let's go help out Agatha. Oh wait, I got to rest first. Ridiculous. Oh dear. We got a lot of stuff now. All right, better take care of Sophie's problem first. The streetlights filter into the apartment in a stark white glow, as if someone were shooting a movie outside. The art pieces display a tasteful expense entirely fitting the image you have of Sophie. It feels as if 1,000 sins have been committed on these premises, most of them under her benevolent hospitality. Sophie comes to greet you as you enter the living room, shaking her head. You understand that people judge me based on how you dress, don't you? Sophie looks at your clothes as if resigned to your sartorial limitations. I've tried to dress inconspicuously because of the masquerade. That's very sensible of you. I suppose I should commend you for that. Sophie walks to the window and looks out, the streetlights playing on her features. She reminds you of a queen contemplating the unfortunate limitations of her subjects. You'd think that as a vampire, at least we wouldn't have to worry about the vultures of the press. Unfortunately, when you have power and ability, there are always parasites trying to feed on you. Is there a reporter after you? Yes, a terribly persistent creature. Sophie steps away from the window and settles down on a sofa. A wine glass with a red liquid in it, blood treated as not to spoil. You become good at noticing the scent, even from a distance. She doesn't offer you any as you cautiously sit down across from her. This awful man has been stalking my apartment with a camera. He's gone through my trash, talked to the neighbors. Please be a dear and explain to him that there's nothing for him here. Is this about the masquerade? That's a big deal for us, right? Indeed, you're learning. Isn't this unavoidable when we fake mortal lives? Do you really think you can tell me how to live? Do you know anything about the reporter? Man, woman, young, old, anything like that? All gossip reporters look the same to me. Time for you to go. I have business to attend to. You leave the apartment as Sophie disappears into another room. You don't have a clear idea of the games she plays with the city's mortal and immortal power structures, but she always seems to be making a move. Outside on the street, there's a slight warm drizzle, the kind that gets under your clothes and makes you want to take a shower. When you get back to your own haven, no reporters immediately jump out to you. For a while, it feels like nothing is happening. In the New York night, people are walking past you on their way to whatever nightlife diversion helps them forget their sordid lives. As you contemplate going back inside and telling Sophie you're not looking for a new career as a lookout, you suddenly notice the lens of a camera pointed at you across the street. Hey, you yell and run across the street. It's a man you're sure you've seen somewhere before. Rotund, pasty, someone who's spent too much time in badly ventilated rooms, stained with cigarette smoke. You enter an alley, a dark, dingy space between two tall buildings. Once upon a time, a place like this might have worried you, made you think of muggings and violence. Now it's clear that the most dangerous thing here is you. The man you are following seems to realize this too. He holds his camera in front of him like a shield, its heavy objective resting on his paunch. With a start, you recognize him. You remember the face, the shaded sunglasses from a picture next to a byline in some trashy paper you were reading to kill time. Something about celebrities, scandals, pleasure seeking. His name is Frank Dougherty. You saw him on the street one time with a camera outside a nightclub, probably waiting for someone important to come out so he could take their picture. Hey, don't go around scaring people like that. You're Frank Dougherty. I recognize you from that thing. You're a fake reporter, right? I'm a real reporter, darn it. A lot of scoops here in this dirty alley. You can't be a journalist if you're not willing to get your hands dirty. Do you live here? I'm working on a story about a local resident. Her name is Sophie Langley. Everybody knows her in high society circles. That's kind of true. Most journalists are pretty pathetic these days. They don't actually do a lot of work to get news. She's a redhead, pretty as a picture, and there were a lot of pictures of her through the years. That's the thing, in fact. Look at this. Frankly pulls out his phone and starts showing you pictures. Some have been downloaded from news sites, while others are photos from the society pages of newspapers from past decades. Apparently you can't take pictures of vampires, so vampires have reflections in this storyline or setting. All show Sophie. She has different clothes, hairstyles, makeup, names, but the face remains the same. That's strange. So what do you think's going on? Beats me. That's what I'm here to find out. You must have a theory about what's happening. I have a theory or two. Before I print my theory, I need facts to back it up. 3 words: extreme plastic surgery. All the celebrities do it. Only your doctor is better than the rest. You look critically at the photos on Frank's phone. You're thinking the world's best plastic surgeon's working out of this alley? Okay, fine. I don't know what this is about. So how would you explain it? Have you considered the possibility that those pictures are a hoax? Sure, anything can be a hoax, but I dug up those old papers from the archives myself. I got to have something usable. Frank, I'm trying to help you. I'm trying to give you something you can work with. Take it. Frank is clearly taken aback by the change in your tone, but he's a gossip reporter. He's used to people trying to push him. Look, I'm a reporter. You can bluster, but you can't hide the truth. I'll tell you one more thing about Sophie. She's good at suing people. Do you think you can afford a lawsuit? This job is all I have. Don't do this to me. It's your choice. I'm not your enemy. Desist and there won't be any trouble. Frank is taken aback at the brutality of your tone. He has been intimidated many times before, but he also knows that sometimes the threats are real. I haven't been that mean. This time he senses you're not kidding. He's just an aging man trying to salvage a career. You win. I hope you and Sophie Langley have a happy life. Deflated and hunched over, Frank drudges away from the alley. You stare at his receding figure. It's hard not to feel sorry for him. In Sophie Langley, he took on something way too powerful for a small fish like himself. You know what to expect when you return to the small bookstore serving as Agathon's haven. The cacophony of occult imagery assault you from the book covers, displays on the window, but under the fake facade there's something real. This time, the Buddhas and the satanic Bibles of the storefront seem almost funny, or perhaps you've started to tune into the dry humor of these Tremere. Just as you're about to ring the doorbell, the door opens and Agathon storms out. You step aside just in time to avoid having him stumble into you. Calvin, what are you doing here? Look, I came to help you, like last time. Okay, fine, you're right, follow me. As he turns to go, Agathon almost looks pleased that you're here. Agathon walks to his car with you in tow. It doesn't occur to you last time, but it's a surprisingly pedestrian vehicle. An aging mid-sized family sedan. You imagine what it would look like with a baby seat in the back. Opening the door on the driver's side, Agathon notices your look. Laugh all you want, but it's inconspicuous and practical. You sit in the car and Agathon starts driving in his usual careful style. At least you'll never be stopped by traffic cops. It seems Agathon is not interested in small talk. I love a good mystery as much as the next vampire, but at some point you have to tell me what we're doing. Let me ask you a question in return. Have you ever tasted animal blood? From sheep, for example? New York is not the best place to hunt for wildlife, you know. You'd be surprised. There are plenty of pigeons, rats, dogs, cats. But your instinct is correct. Animal blood tastes vile. If it didn't, our lives would be very different. Anyway, something to think about. You exit Manhattan over the Brooklyn Bridge and soon reach the site of the nightclub that seems to be your destination. It's on the riverfront, a converted former warehouse. With a start, you recognize the place, the club where fate latched its cold, grubby hands onto your soul. You wanted to party, but instead you became a monster. How's that for a hangover? After Agathon parks the car, it's time for you to enter the nightclub. You glance at the Tremere, evaluating him. It's obvious this is not his kind of place. I get it. There's a good chance the research notes are here. Let's not waste any time. Excellent. There's a line into the club. It looks like a popular spot, even if, based on the crowd, this is not exactly a place for supermodels and celebrities. You walk up to the man at the door and smile. Hey, you remember me, right? Mind if we go in? The bouncer looks at you, taken in by your supernatural charisma. It doesn't matter whether he really remembers you or not. Sure, go right in. Have a great night. You walk into the club, ignoring all the people standing in line. The music beats down on you, bringing with it memories of a human existence. The first time you went dancing with friends, when you flirted with someone on the dance floor. This time it's different. You're a predator, and everyone around you is prey, tightly packed, twitching sacks of blood and tissue. You sense the emotions all around you. Blood tinted with happiness, lust, rage, jealousy, love, a buffet of sensations. Focus, keep an eye out for trouble while I look for what we came to find. You nod and follow Agathon through the throng, trying to ignore all the warmth, flesh, and circulating blood around you. I don't need blood. Eyes on the prize, you came here to help Agathon, and that's what you'll do. Agathon wades through the dancing people with purpose, but you have no idea how he's searching for the missing research notes. Perhaps he's using the enhanced sense of a vampire or some esoteric sorcery. At least he seems to know what he's doing. Juno. You swerve to avoid a drunken man who was just about to spill beer onto you and try to see what Agathon is looking at. A young woman, intense, purposeful, a little out of place at the nightclub, just like you and Agathon. Who's Juno? She's Tremere, a renegade. Bad news. The woman, Juno, elbows a drunken man out of her way and points a finger at Agathon's face. Agathon, you traitor, don't you dare stand between me and what's mine. You look at the woman in surprise. Her appearance stands in contrast with the anger in her words. Juno, you know Aisling will not let you leave with the notes. Perhaps she won't let you leave at all. Juno pulls close to Agathon's face and stage whispers loudly enough for you to hear her over the music. You're still so brainwashed that you care about what Aisling frickin' Sturbridge wants. I'm done jumping through her hoops. I don't know what I saw in you, Agathon. You're such a lapdog. Look, are we sure we want to talk about all this in the middle of the dance floor? Do I look like I care about the frickin' masquerade? You look at Juno in genuine shock. From Sophie, you've understood that the masquerade is universal among the kindred. Juno, you don't mean that. You're not suicidal. Frickin' watch me. Juno, please. Juno sits back, suddenly cold, ignoring the people dancing all around. She stares hard at Agathon. The past is past. The traditions are dead to me. You won't stop me, Agathon. I'll make sure of that, here and now. You know I have the power. No, Juno, please. Agathon sounds panicked. He's not worried about his own survival, but of the possibility that Juno is going to unleash a genuine masquerade breach. Calling on the powers of your blood, you step closer to Juno between her and Agathon. Agathon was being a booty hole. Don't hurt yourself just to get back at him. He's not worth it. Juno looks you in the eye, and you can see that she's tired and scared. Defecting from the Tremere is not easy or safe. You're right. She turns to go, then stops and glances back at you. You should pick better friends. With that, Juno walks through the oblivious dancers towards the exit. Looking around, you realize that Agathon didn't stay to witness your exchange with Juno. Instead, he worked his way around the dancing crowd, looking for the notes using his arcane method. After Juno was gone, he returned, shaking his head. The notes were here, but not anymore. It's possible someone grabbed them when they hunted here. After making sure Juno is nowhere to be seen, you and Agathon push your way back outside. Outside, you walk to Agathon's car and drive back over the Brooklyn Bridge to Manhattan, heading for Agathon's haven. Juno mentioned some very personal things. I trust your discretion in not discussing those things with Aisling. Your love life is your business. Thank you. After a while, you reach Agathon's haven, and he parks the car. You walk to the occult bookstore, and Agathon invites you inside. The smell of incense assaults you as before, making you grateful you don't have to breathe. You follow Agathon upstairs to find Aisling Sturbridge in an armchair reading an old book. She puts a bookmark in place as you come in. You were successful, I hope. No, I'm sorry. The notes were there at some point, but not anymore. That's a shame. I hope you don't run out of time. How did Sophie's little protege do? Agathon turns to look at you. Well, surprisingly well. That's a surprise. I'll have to compliment Sophie on her choice. We met Juno. Fortunately, she couldn't find the notes either. That's interesting. The High Regent turns to look at you. What was your impression of Juno, fledgling? She was very angry. I don't know what you people did to her, but she's pissed. What we did, careful now, fledgling. She made her own choices, bad as they were. Anyway, I have some things to discuss with Agathon. Run along now. You leave the occult bookstore, the cheesy mystical music still in your ears as you walk away. You wonder about what happened with Juno. Why is she so anxious to leave her clan? Can she really do that? Could you leave Sophie's service if you wanted to? All right. Sleep it up. Kadir al-Assami, the sheriff of New York, is knocking at the door to your haven. The sight comes as more than a little shocking. If he had business with you, you'd either expect to see him already inside or never see him coming at all. Yet there he is, on the other side of the peephole, patiently and politely waiting for you to let him in. You carefully unlock the door and face him in silence. Evening, may I come in? You simply stare at him. Your lack of an answer doesn't faze him, and your lack of resistance as he starts walking aside has obviously been interpreted as permission. Once inside, he starts looking around as you cautiously stay by the door. Haven't really had time to make this place your own yet, have you? Feels like Langley's apartment through and through, a secluded study where nobody studies anything. You look at the books on the shelf, obviously meant to impress guests, not to be read. They reveal nothing about their owner, aside from an aching desire to be taken seriously as an intellectual. Picks one of them up and smirks before putting it away. The phenomenology of spirit, next to all of this garbage poetry. We can make a bet. If she's read more than 20 pages, I owe you $50 and a gallon of blood. The kind of place that self-professed hermits entome themselves in to suffer. Considering how much you have to run around these nights, you probably only use it to shelter from the sun and rest, right? Even though he's obviously making an effort to come off as non-threatening, it's impossible to forget the first impression he made. You still see him as a fierce predator trying hard not to expose his true colors. You sense a familiar fight or flight response as you struggle to find a diplomatic answer to his last question. If Kadir's bothered by your silence, he doesn't let it show. He keeps walking around, toying with whatever catches his eye. Eventually, he speaks up again. Watch any baseball lately? If I had to guess, you strike me as a Red Sox fan. Now he's inviting you to talk in a more direct manner. You attempt to overcome your physical reaction to him and reply as casually as you can. Your mind keeps going back to the night when everything was changed forever. Waking up in heck with a body next to you, spending a night in that underground sweatbox, unsure of what will happen next. That endless car ride, 3 strikes, a bloodthirsty crowd, that blade. A rebirth, a baptism by fire, a frightening executor who made sure the flames scarred your spirit. As you look into his face, you realize he's read the emotions from yours. Not in the mood to exchange pleasantries. There's no animosity in his voice. He's just stating a fact. Let me get straight to the point then. He momentarily stops caring about his surroundings, turning all of his attention to you, and demanding the entirety of your attention in return. You see, there's something I've realized over the years. In large part, I may have been hired just to look menacing with a sword, but my job is all about seeing through bonds and relationships. The Camarilla would be safe as long as its members adhered to certain social contracts, making their dealings and affinities plain for everyone to see, but that obviously remains a pipe dream. This is a community of born conspirators, overly ambitious gangsters and politicians, monsters in denial, all sorts of tragically broken individuals. They are driven by desires that make them incompatible with the masquerade, incompatible with prolonged survival of the Camarilla, incompatible with the methods I used to operate. And so I am doomed to be like a cop, constantly insulted behind my back, maybe for a good reason, but immediately call for help whenever someone loses their tableware. That's the truth. I mean, that's what happened at the very beginning. When as soon as you're like, oh yeah, we got the cops, and then you're like, where's the cops to help me? Where? We're like an Agatha Christie protagonist, outwardly assisted by everyone, but constantly lied to about everyone's past and motivations, even if my failure to solve the mystery might be the end of us all. He tries to sound like he's peacefully resigned to his fate, but it's easy to detect a tinge of regret in his voice, a voice belonging to someone who once had bigger ambitions than this. What broke him? So you see, for this detective, the why done it is far more important than the who done it or how done it. When you understand all the players and their mutual obligations, you easily understand every crime. But of course, the Kindred know it, so they devise ways to make my job much harder, just like conspiracies between two unrelated actors that depend on scratching each other's back for mutual security. Or they enforce a blood bond to make someone unexpected their thrall. A boss serving their employee, a rebel serving a tyrant, just because one is regularly being forced to drink another's blood. What has Sophie seen in you? Why does the prince keep asking me about your actions? How come you're being pushed to build your own coterie so fast? You're surrounded by unclear motivations, which you yourself don't understand. That unnerves me, and it should unnerve you as well. Oh, and what are your motivations? Finally, you manage to raise your voice. Kadir notices the effort and smiles softly. So you haven't gone mute since the last time I saw you. Good. Well, I'm here for a selfish reason. I need to develop a rapport with you to better fulfill my obligations. Last time we met, I couldn't see you as my equal. Now that you've been accepted in the Camarilla, what choice do I have? I'd understand if you didn't want to see my face again, but I'm one of the faces of New York City's community. As long as you're part of it, it's going to be impossible to avoid me. Especially when I have business with you, and I do. As you might have guessed by now, one of my tasks is uncovering and understanding your bonds, and one of them might endanger our community. Well, that's not menacing at all. Who's he talking about? Is this about Sophie? Kadir shakes his head. Sophie's fine. She's plotting something big. I know it. And she knows I know it. But she's treading carefully, as she should. No, they're not a major player. He produces a file from underneath his coat and passes it to you. This is our troublemaker. You open the file and see some printed photos. You freeze up as you recognize the face and are overwhelmed by a flood of repressed memories. Jessica Lowell. Oh man, that's a terrible combo. It's my real wife's name, and then like the coworker that I despise the most last name. The woman who made the last few years of your life heaven and the last few weeks a living heck. Since she took pretty much everyone you knew with her after the split, you thought the transition to this life would be painless, no baggage at all. Have you thought wrong? You look up at Kadir expecting answers. There are some unfortunate rumors that you committed suicide after a messy breakup. So apparently, Miss Jessica here is desperately mobilizing everyone she knows to look for you. Turns out she's contacted a lot of people who might recognize you, including some in law enforcement agencies. The risk of endangering us is relatively low, but far from non-existent, which means she must be stopped. Must be stopped sounds threatening. You dread thinking what he's planning. I'll arrange for you two to meet tomorrow so that you can straighten the situation out and say goodbye to the life you've forsaken. He'll arrange? What? Your eyes must look like saucers right now. Usually these matters are left to my discretion, and I can't think of an easier solution. The lost sheep reappears, takes care of unfinished business, and disappears, never to be seen again. Nobody cares. It's simple. It's clean. No contrived schemes. No unnecessary victims. And it gives me an opportunity to learn more about you as I observe. When neonates interact with kind they used to hold dear, their true natures are laid bare for everyone to see. Of course, he's invested in being kind to you, or he's making clear his self-serving intentions so that you don't start figuring them out yourself. Any objections? Any alternatives are probably worse. You shake your head. Very well, I'll arrange a meeting and drive you there tomorrow. Better come up with a load of bull that's easy to swallow. He disappears from the apartment, leaving you as confused as the last time he closed the door on you. God darn it, you need to think it through. For a long time, you just sit in your haven, lost in your thoughts, remembering how you once thought your world had ended with her leaving. Whining, sure, but seems like it was prescient whining. All right, let's go check out the gang grill. Once again, you cross the gate of Prospect Park and head straight for where you last saw the feral duo. Minutes pass. Finding no sign of Tamika, you begin to worry that something might have happened to her. Suddenly you hear rustling coming from the nearby bushes, and it's not the stray cat kind of rustling either. Hey, you in the bushes, I can hear you, right? The rustling stops, if only for a second. Suddenly the bushes part and Raoul walks out, desperately trying to look confident. Yeah, that's only because I wanted you to. Listen, I wanted to have a word before Tam gets here. She seems to like you for whatever strange reason, but the way I see it, you're a nuisance at best. At worst, you're a threat. Just give it some time. You'll warm up to me yet. The whole suave patootie hole routine might work on your dip stuff cami friends, but I'm not impressed. Tamika is my sister. In every sense of the word that counts. I always probably mean Camarilla friends. That makes more sense. Anything happens to her that I find even remotely your fault, I'm coming after you. Is that clear? I'm not your enemy or Tamika's. I don't think you understand. I don't give a frick what you think you are. What I'm saying is, if anything happens to Tamika, I'm holding you accountable. Yeah, I got it. All of a sudden, the sound of footsteps reaches your ears. It's just faint enough to not be ostentatious, but still loud enough to hear. You can tell that whoever is approaching wants to make their presence known. Both you and Rule turn just in time to see Tamika emerge from behind an old sycamore tree. It's hard to tell just how long she's been listening in on your conversation. In any case, she walks up and speaks, addressing no one in particular. Did I miss anything? Your brother's worried about you. He seems to think I'm a bad influence. Ah. Instant, her voice goes from mockingly sweet to stern and unyielding. Her next words sound like a challenge. Is that true, Raoul? You think I can't take care of myself? Gosh darn it, Tam. That's not what this is about, and you know it. I know, big brother. You meant well. You always mean well. Ah, screw it. Why do I even bother? And with that, Raoul takes his leave. Tamika waits in silence, just long enough to make sure he can no longer hear her, and addresses you. I have a favor to ask. Okay, what is it? I have an errand to run. I was hoping you'd come with me. There's a place east of here. It's a short walk. We should be back in about 2, maybe 3 hours. Wait, we're walking, as in on foot, in New York City? I don't like cars, all right? They remind me of old times before it became this. It can be distracting. So, can we go? Sure, we can go now, if you're ready. Well, all right. And so you head towards the parking lot, accompanied by Tamika, and a lot of unanswered questions. Following Tamika's directions, you finally arrive at the Evergreen Cemetery, one of the oldest burying grounds in Brooklyn. You enter through the southwestern gate and follow your companion through the sea of tombstones. It's a nice enough place as far as graveyards go, much less homogenized than the usual flat field littered with identical markers. Tamika confidently presses on, swerving and weaving along a pre-programmed path. It's clear that she's been here more than a few times. Finally, she makes a sharp left and takes a few more steps down a gravel walkway, coming to a sudden stop in front of a modest headstone. With the inscriptions reads, Luca Santiago, beloved sister and daughter, born 1991, taken from us too soon. With her eyes fixed on the grave site, she lets out an absent-minded utterance. I need a moment alone, not long, 5 minutes at the most. You look around in search of a good spot to wait for her and pass the time. At the far end of a nearby lawn, you notice a lone bench situated under a weeping willow. Suddenly you hear voices, distant but slowly approaching. Judging by the tone and timbre, you're guessing it's a couple of teenagers out to get their late-night kicks among the dearly departed. Might be a good chance to feed. Then again, you could just pass the time walking around the area. It's actually quite nice in a dark and somber kind of way. Take your time. I think I'll grab myself a drink. Just do it quietly. I don't want any trouble, not here. You leave Tamika alone and follow the voices. Soon enough, you come upon a couple in their late teens. Judging by the thick eyeliner and their clothes consisting mostly of black leather and lace, you'd venture a guess that they'd love nothing more than to meet an actual vampire. You're happy to oblige. As you emerge from the shadows, you can feel your all intensify. The boy and the girl watch you completely, awestruck, waiting for you to approach. The slightest gesture is enough to shoo the boy away. He sits on a nearby bench and watches, completely enamored, as your lips press against the girl's neck. It's a weird sensation to feel, actually, honest to goodness pride in a victim's blood. But here you are. She's glad to have been chosen in this way. You decide there's no good reason to discriminate and also take a sip from the guy. His BO is pretty terrible, but the taste of his blood isn't half bad. Well, there was your reason. Hoping the teen's post-kiss days will make your face just an impression in their memory, you leave them on the bench just as they let their excited hormones run wild and start making out furiously. You half expect Kadir to materialize sword in hand to deal with these loose ends, or with you for leaving them to roam like you did. You'll need to be more careful in the future. Finally, you get back to the tree and find Tamika sitting on the bench without a word. You sit next to her. You look over to her, doing her best not to stare. She looks down, crossing her arms and putting her hands on her shoulders. In an instant, the ferocious savage disappears, replaced by a vulnerable young woman. I think I'm done. You okay? I'm better now. Sorry, I guess I should tell you what this was about. She looks away. You can tell she's struggling to open to you, so you remain silent, try not to make her uncomfortable. I was embraced not far from here in the cemetery, a fitting spot, I suppose. It was close to the decade ago. I'd been on the road for a couple years at that point, hitchhiking from one town to another. New York was supposed to be just another stop. And then I met Jezebel. She was strong, smart, independent, seemed like someone I could trust, someone I could get close to. She never made me feel inadequate or ashamed, and she could hold her own in a fist fight too. Funny thing though, she only wanted to meet during nighttime. I didn't think much of it, even came up with excuses for her. Busy, eccentric, whatever worked. Until one night she sank her teeth into my neck. A fighter, a lover, an undead abomination. She sounds like quite a gal. She was. I honestly learned more about her after she was gone. She was the real deal, an old school gangrel, a veteran of the Battle of New York. She looks away and grows reticent for a brief moment. Anyway, she left soon after turning me. I think the conclave of Prague really shook her up. Wait, the conclave of what now? Prague, it's a city in Central Europe. It was supposed to be neutral ground, a good place to discuss politics and strategy. It ended up almost turning into a civil war. Next thing you know, the anarchs were expunged from the Camarilla. All they had done for our kind, the blood they spilled, didn't amount to a thing. The anarchs are an organization, though. They're not a clan. At least in the sense of like a Tremere and stuff like that, I don't think. I can't blame Jezebel for feeling betrayed. But yeah, even though I still had Raoul and Luca, I was still furious and terrified. Luca died a few years later. Operation Lights Out, they called it. It was a coordinated assault by the Second Inquisition, a genocide by any other name. Her family got together, bought up a plot, and buried an empty casket. I guess they wanted some closure. Can't fault them for that. Even though she's not really here, I like to come and visit from time to time. It reminds me of who I am, keeps me in check, keeps the beast at bay. Also, this being the place of my embrace, you have to appreciate the level of irony. She straightens up and looks at you as if something just occurred to her. Sorry, I don't know what came over me. One minute I'm all grunts and stares, the next I'm giving you my biography. Guess I'm just tired of being scared, alone. You're looking for a place to belong. In all the wrong places, it seems. At this point, I'm just looking for something to believe in, someone I could give a darn about. You'll always have Raoul. She smiles sadly. Will I? Don't get me wrong, Raoul is my brother. The bond between us is not easily broken. But he's got ideas and ambitions of his own. He won't always be there to watch my back. I can't expect that of him. You open your mouth, but before you can make a sound, Tamika motions at you to keep quiet. She lifts her head and sniffs at the air. Her ears perk up and her eyes widen. Suddenly, she pushes you with all her strength, sending you flying off the bench. Before you even hit the ground, an immense shape flies into view and smashes down into the bench, splitting it in pieces. Ooh, we got a werewolf? With the blood surging through your veins, you pounce onto your feet. You look at the mass of fur and muscles that just nearly pulverized you. The creature rears its head, gives you a deranged stare. It then turns to Tamika. She seems utterly terrified, frozen in place, as if she literally just saw a ghost. You notice the creature shift its weight as it's preparing to pounce. Feeling as if your muscles have turned to steel, you ram the creature before it can throw itself at Tamika. The beast flies through the air and smashes its back against a tree. In a matter of seconds, however, it gets back to its feet. Your attack might have surprised it, but it clearly didn't do any real damage. The creature then turns towards you. For a second or two, it moves its mouth awkwardly, as if trying to remember how to form words. If it's a werewolf, I'm pretty sure werewolves are more powerful than vampires in Vampire the Masquerade. But I'm not familiar with the role-playing game, really. But it always seems like the vampires are afraid of werewolves. There's just not a lot of werewolves, and they stay out of the cities. Stay out. My ground. The creature runs off towards a nearby clearing when all of a sudden a gunshot sends it tumbling onto the ground. A group of well-armed men in body armor emerge from the shadows in an orderly formation and move in closer around the creature. Ooh, I wonder what part of me wants to stand and fight, but I don't think that's wise. Not sure what to make of what's happening, you figure it's best to get out of sight. As you start backing away into the near bushes, you notice Tamika following your lead. From the relative safety of a thick foliage, you watch in silence as the group of armed men subdue the creature using steel nets and cattle prods. In the corner of your eye, you catch Tamika looking away as if she finds this whole spectacle somehow distasteful. She speaks under her breath, her voice shaking. Can we get out of here? You see no reason to object. You walk back. Turns out to be a quiet and somber experience. You both walk in silence, the city a blur of lights and cars careening by. You look over at Tamika. She seems lost in her thoughts. Finally, you decide to break the silence. Do you have any idea who those guys were? They looked like they knew what they were doing. They did. They spend their whole lives either training or hunting our kind. They're the Second Inquisition. It's been a while since I saw them operating in New York. I would never expect them to go after the Sacred One. The Sacred One? That's the only name he's known by. He's a cautionary tale for young Gangrel. He's what happens when you let the beast take over. Okay, so still no werewolves. I always figured him to be more of a metaphor. Seeing him in real life, it's like if a Christian just happened to run into Judas Iscariot one day. And seeing him hunted down by the Second Inquisition, I don't know what to think. I don't even know where to start thinking. Deciding to give her some space, you spend the rest of the walk in silence. Soon enough, the familiar tree line of Prospect Park comes into view. You stop by the entrance nearest to Tamika's haven. She keeps walking without so much as a word or a glance in your direction. She stops after several paces and turns back towards you. I'm sorry, thank you for coming with me, but now I have a lot of stuff to figure out. Once I do, I'll let you know. And with that, she disappears among the trees, seeing no point in sticking around. You take your leave. Knock, knock. You ask who's there, but you don't know if the sheriff of the New York City would play along. When you open the door, you see him toying with the car keys he's holding in his hand. Ready to go, fledgling? You don't feel like it, but you give him a nod nevertheless. Excellent, stay close. He leads you down to the vehicle he's parked nearby. Once again, he takes the wheel, literally and figuratively. Everything inside is just the way you remember it, down to the rearview mirror, reflecting the intense stare of your guide. However, the trip itself feels notably different. The last time Kadir drove you around, he was forcibly dragging you away from your old life. This time, he's pulling you back into it. All the things you wanted to say to Jessica keep running through your head. Let me tell you how it's going to go. As I said, I've arranged a meeting between you and your kin. It's going to take place somewhere you should know very well. I'll watch over you two from a safe distance to make sure you adhere to the rules. You should know those very well, but I'll reiterate just so you can't ever say I didn't warn you. Don't do anything that would violate the masquerade. Don't establish some secret routes of contact. I will know. Do treat it as the last time you two will meet. Take this chance to wrap everything up. Here's your story. You're fine, found yourself at a crossroads, decided to radically change your life and move out of the city. The subway is unbearable. The rent is too high. They've heard it all. You were ready to leave New York for good when you heard those absurd rumors about taking your own life, so you've decided to set the record straight. He gives you a knowing look and close the curtains on your relationship once and for all on your terms. The car makes a sudden turn. I'll leave the finer details to you. Just be so kind and don't make me regret it. You can sense he's going out of his way for you, but doesn't try to force you into gratitude by stating it plainly. If you know, you know. He'll see if you are worthy of his aid. We're here. Take a look around and recognize your destination. He was right. It's a familiar place. It's that club, that one you met your future sire in while trying to forget about Jess. I was just there. This is where they last saw poor Calvin. Who knows whatever might have happened to him. One Jessica Lowell is trying to find out. She got a tip from an anonymous source saying that you might appear here tonight. Wouldn't want to disappoint the lady, would you? She's apparently quite distraught. He turns off the engine and relaxes comfortably in his seat. You silently leave the car and head straight for the club. The last time you were headed this way, you still had a pulse. Feels almost nostalgic. There's a party that's not true. The last time I was here was helping Agathon. There's a party getting started, and some rookie DJ is trying to read the crowd. You begin to look for Jess. You wonder what the first thing you say to her should be. Yeah, that should work. The music is pulsing, and there are good vibes in the air. You spot a girl hurrying to the bathroom with a nosebleed. The smell is faint, but it gets you in the mood to have some fun. However, Kadir indicated that he's got a pair of eyes around here somewhere. Better stick to the plan. A stupid idea pops into your head. If you meet her and she says, I want to be with you again, you'd say no. What would you do? Oh, but I want to make her a vampire. What's done is done. Best not to dwell on it. By now, it feels like you've explored all the places Jess could have been. It's getting frustrating. You grab the cheapest drink they have from the bar. Just because I wanted to turn somebody into a vampire. I'm guessing that's probably your only chance. A tall blonde girl in a stylish skirt. You can also get, what is those? Ghouls or something like that. When people who feed on your blood and they can get some powers from that. Smiles at you from behind the heart-shaped glasses. You smile back, but this is no time for the heart to guide the hand. You walk past her back to your duty. You mimic taking a sip of your drink. Goodness, you could have been having so much fun tonight. You could. Accidentally stumble into Jessica when you least expect it. She looks at you as if she's seen a ghost. You freeze up, trying to come up with something to say and failing. The last few years of your life flash before your eyes. Wait, what was the line you decided to open the conversation with? Before you remember, a powerful slap takes you out of your stupor. You stupid mother fricker. Guess she gets the first line. You realize you've spilled your drink all over your clothes. Great, this is the only set of clothes I have. I've literally not changed my clothes in 7 nights. I've been so worried. I've been so freaking worried. Called everyone I knew to look for you. And you're just having fun clubbing? You thought it would be funny to drop all contact with everyone, pretend something happened to you? What, you wanted to see my reaction? She slaps you once again. You let some sort of dissociation set in and just watch the situation as it unfolds. I'll let everybody know you're okay, but don't you ever show yourself in front of me again. She turns her back on you and disappears in the crowd, walking towards the exit. You look around. You notice the heart-shaped glasses girl chuckling in the distance. You're no longer in the mood to party. Guess you'll follow Jessica's lead and leave. Better not keep the sheriff waiting. Well, at the very least, you can say this. She still cares. That's nice. Back at Kadir's car, once you close the door, he instantly puts his foot on the gas pedal. Walking off the pitch with no regrets, said everything you had to say. You speak up without thinking. Yeah, she said she'll call off the search. Getting her to accept that it was over took some harsh words, but deep down I think she knew it was time to say farewell, once and for all. She's a little shaken up, but she's alive. But she'll live. You spot a playful spark in Kadir's eyes. You took care of it like a man, did you? Very good. The people we knew in life have this tendency to briefly reappear in lives. One night, let's say 20 years from now, she might spot you on the street. You won't have aged a day from now, and even though she'll tell herself that can't be you, she'll be jealous. If you look happy, she will regret over what could have happened. So for the sake of the night, your paths cross once again. I hope you'll search for your own happiness. The car speeds up to cross an intersection before the light turns red. You give Kadir a good hard look. Thanks. Doesn't feel like a, how do you call it, very vampire thing to say, but you say it nevertheless. He's visibly taken aback, and his usually furrowed brow smooths out for a moment. Then he takes on a serious, slightly sorrowful expression. Don't suck up to me, kid. Mr. Bad Guy is still here, and without a doubt, he will go back to decapitating suckers like you any time now. The car starts slowing down. We're here. You look out the window and see your haven. Take care. I'll see you around. Just pray I don't have to see you too often. You leave the car and start walking to your haven, thinking about Kadir. Can't say you're fond of him, what with the welcome he gave you and all. But after tonight, you can't say you aren't either. You're going to need some more time to understand him, that's for sure. All right, this seems like a good place to stop. Apparently, the porter guy's still around. Got to take care of him. Man, I had a thought that I thought should mention at the end, but it's gone by now. Anyways, thanks for watching. Hope you have a good one. Oh, now I remembered. Man, I read this game was supposed to take like 3 hours. Now, granted, me reading is taking a little bit longer, but I don't know how this is still like 3 hours, even if I wasn't reading it. I'm pretty sure I probably got a good 5 hours in so far. And I don't feel like I'm anywhere near getting to the end of anything. I got all these guys' quests still to do and finish storylines. So, anyways, we'll see. This may be quite a while to finish. Thanks for watching.